Okay, welcome back to another weekly GMBN Tech Show. Coming up on this week's show, we've got some details about some crazy titanium brake levers we spotted on Loic Bruni's bike. We've got some information on some new 29 enduro bikes. All the regular stuff from you guys, although I've had to strip it down a little bit because at long last we've got a massive update on the bike build. So we've got a bit of a special for you here with a lot of what's been going on. Okay, so straight into tech news, and there's a whole bunch of cool new stuff that's been going on. And the first one, look on screen at this bad boy. This is the new 29-inch wheel Pivot Firebird. Now, frame weight on this is around £7. It accepts 27.5-inch plus tyres and also 29-inch wheels. It's got 162mm of travel out back, aimed at running a 174, because I'm sure you could get away with a 180 on there if you wanted to go a bit more extreme. It's got adjustable geometry. It's got the Super Boost Plus system out back, so that's 157mm spacing for even more stability, stronger wheel, more mud clearance, and of course that killer chain line that makes everything work so smoothly. Now, like a lot of other 29er bikes, it's offering that 44mm offset, so that's a decreased offset on there to basically improve the handling at high speed. And something I particularly like about this bike, no stranger here, I'm obviously going to talk about this in a size XL because that's where I relate all the bike sizes and all the videos we do here just purely based on bikes I ride on the channel. They're XL, it's got 500mm reach. So my Scott Genius is 505, my Nukeproof is 515, so 500 is banging. It's a really nice long bike, and I like to think that anything upwards of 480 is a pretty good place to be for a size XL. So 500, well done Pivot, that's a banging geometry bike there. It's got a 431mm chainstay out back, so whilst it's short, it's not crazy short, so it's going to feel fairly balanced. And it's got a head angle somewhere around 64 degrees. So this thing is going to be a monster off-road. Love to have a go on one of these. Although the colours divided people in the office a bit. It's got a kind of a beige thing going on. Santa Cruz have done this with their sandy colour on the Nomad. And the next bike I'm going to talk about has also got a similar colour. Is it cool? Is it army camo-y sort of themed? Or is it like old pensioner kind of beige? What is it? I kind of think it's cool. I'm not... Jury's out. Let us know in the comments what you reckon of the paint job. And the next beige bike this week is the new Commercial Meta 29er, of course. Now look at this. This thing is rad, especially with that red lyric on there. So the changes from the previous model is the pivot is moved quite substantially rearwards. So it's an improved pivot placement. So whilst it's still great for pedaling, you get less pedal jacks, you get less interference from the suspension action. It's got 160mm of travel. It's not quite as big and roomy as the Pivot, but it's still got decent geometry. So it's a 66-degree head angle, which is a bit more conventional for that sort of bike. That's similar realm to my Scott with the 29er on there. 432mm chainstays, and it's looking at about 480 reach on the XL. So again, it's not the biggest bike, but actually I reckon it's going to be a really, really good riding bike. And judging by the way that Johan Borelli and the other Commercial riders are chucking these things around, man, this thing looks fun. Now, a while ago, we reported that Magura brakes are being used on a specialised gravity team. Of course, that means Loic Bruni riding those brakes. And we hinted at the fact that he's going to be developing some stuff alongside Magura. Now, we've already seen that Danny McCaskill has developed his own brake with his really unique brake lever position, which offers insane amounts of power with minimal hand effort. And of course, for the stuff that Danny needs, that is exactly what you want, but it's the complete opposite of the way that Loic would like to approach a brake lever design. So based on a sketch that he did pretty much on a napkin in a pub type setup, this is the brake lever he's come up with. So it's a 3D printed titanium blade. It looks quite long, quite flat, and it looks like one of those levers. It just feels really, really comfy to hold. Really keen to see a bit more about this. This is, of course, it's prototype stage at the moment, unlike the Danny McCaskill one, which in limited numbers you can buy. Hopefully we can be able to get this one soon. But look at this. I love the fact that Magura are working with their athletes to develop stuff that we are going to see later on. Brilliant stuff. Okay, so next up is this Öhlins downhill fork. Now look at this bad boy. So a little bit different to what people might have thought it was going to be. Of course, the Fox is 40mm, the box is 35. This is 38mm, so it sits somewhere in the middle, which of course Öhlins, with their expertise from what they've done in the motocross world and what they've done previously in the suspension world, think this is the sweet spot of where you need to be. It uses the TTX technology, and something very unusual about this is it's 160 to 200 millimeters of travel, so it's a fairly adjustable fork, which also suggests it might be a great fork to put on enduro bikes and other bikes that are rated safe to use with a twin crown fork for shorter courses, flatter courses, more pedally courses. Peter Marisburg bike perhaps, who knows. Anyhow, so it's got independent air spring system, independent damper system, it accepts a 200mm disc straight on there, boost DH, SKF wiper seals. You can choose the offset of the fork between 46mm, 50, 54 and 58. The Öhlins fork is compatible with 29er and 27.5 inch wheels, and of course because of the offset you can tune the way it feels so we can get it perfectly set up for your bike. They say it's fender prepared, which means you can mount a mudguard on it. It's got race-proven setting bank on there, and of course it's got that motocross-inspired dual-clamp floating axle. So the axle is actually clamped from both sides rather than just from one side, which can create binding when the lower legs can move slightly independently. Now, if that is anything like the shocks and stuff that I've ridden, like the shock that's on the Canevo, man, this thing is going to be unbelievable. Okay, and finally in the news this week is something a little bit different for me to put on this show. Now, please don't be afraid. I know that we have EMBN for those people that want to ride e-bikes, but I just thought that the new Trek Powerfly looks amazing. So I wanted to just put this on the show. Have a look at this. It's not that often you get to see e-bikes these days that look that clean. It's got an integrated down tube battery on there. The previous model was semi-integrated, so the down tube looks slightly bigger on there. It's 150mm travel. It's got all the usual stuff that you expect to see on an e-bike, but I just thought this thing looks amazing. I think they're really starting to come into their own now. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to pollute the channel with e-bikes, and it won't be that much on here because EMBN is a fantastic resource for that. But I would just like to know what you guys actually think of e-bikes. Do you think they're no hope? Do you think they're amazing? You don't know enough? Have you ridden one? Have you not ridden one? Let us know in the comments. I'm genuinely interested to know what you think about them. And also, do you think that bike looks good or do you think it looks rubbish? Let us know. All right, now it's time for my favourite part of the show at the moment, at least while I'm building my own one. And this is Bike Cave. This is where we get to see where you keep your bikes, where you work on your bikes, where you maintain your bikes, where you put your bikes to bed at night. That could be the back of a trailer, could be a horse box, could be caravan, could be anything mobile, or it could be the garden shed or even a garage. Whatever it is, send it in. The email address is on the screen. Please make sure you use that hashtag BikeCave so we can find them and put you on the show. First up, this is a really cool one. So this is from Sev Cruz, just casually drops in. This is my bike cave in the Galapagos Islands. Wow, okay, so the Galapagos Islands, what have you got tucked in here? Obviously there's some good surf there, judging by the surf. There's a drum kit you got stashed down there and sort of raster colours. Okay, liking this, mate. After Galapagos Islands, I'm a bit blown away. So 2 Santa Cruzes, a KHS by the looks of it, dirt jump bike and some sort of town bike with a brown leather saddle, looking good. Got a good work stand in there. Man, I'm just blown away by the Galapagos thing. Isn't that the place where you get those crazy black marine iguana lizard things, the black ones that sort of do their thing? Oh man, I'm sure I've seen Sir David Attenborough talk about them. And once again, we're seeing the black marine iguana. Something like that, isn't it? Nice one. Well, thanks, Seb, for sending that in. I love your bike cave, and I really didn't know that there was much riding out there. I thought it was pretty much a place where wildlife researchers went. So I'd love to know more about the Galapagos. So please feel free to drop me a line on hellotech@gmbn.com and just put Galapagos Islands in the subject liner. Jokes aside, I genuinely want to know more about your trails and where you ride over there, because it's fantastic that we have viewers in such radical places. Next up is from Dave Grayson. Attached to 2 shots from my bike cave, aka the garage. This is in Reston, VA. Bikes present are a 2017 Moto Bicane HAL 6 with a few mods. New race face handlebars, grips, i9 wheels, very nice. Schwalbe tyres. 2018 Gravity single speed. 2018 Gravity hardtail. And a 2008 Road Bike Plus Kids Trike, Kids Bike, Kids Balance Bike, and Kids Alley Cat Tag Along. I'll tell you what, that's a pretty sweet setup you've got in there, Dave. Is looking crammed. I like your vice on the block there, the Ryobi tools. Ryobi stuff's quite good actually. In fact, you can share a battery amongst them like you can with Makita stuff. I'm really into that. It does save a bit of cash and you get good performance too. Like your alloy ladder up there. I know it's not bike related, but I do like a ladder. And you've got a decent husky roll cab tool chest there as well. Also like to see that stuff. Yeah, it's looking good. Looking like a homey bike cave to me. Vertical bike hanging system as well. Big hoover down there. Is that a compressor? It looks like it might be a compressor. Can't really tell from here. Looking good though, crammed in. Lots of stuff going on in your bike cave. Oh man, we are out the bike cave. I'm sorry I have to cut it a bit short this week because we do have something very cool coming up on the show. But continue to send yours in and we'll see you next week. Alright, so now it's time for a little bit of a different version of Rewind, which is our retro section of the show. A couple of weeks back I went to the Malvern Hills Classic, a race in the UK that I used to compete in back in the early 90s. In fact, the last time I was there was 1994. And going back to this event, 25 years later or so, it's really clear to see that obviously bikes and everything has moved on, but the same vibe was there. It's a really good event. But in a nod to the old days, everyone there was bringing along their old retro bikes from that era, and there was a big WD-40 show and shine competition. And I just want to talk to you about a few of the things I spotted there that were just amazing to see, because I could never afford or even dream to ride one of these things back in the day. So getting to see them now just brings back amazing memories. So the first one on the screen is the Yeti Ultimate. So I don't know the exact date, so it's about 1991. I know the idea for this was conceived in 89. Now it's an elevated chainstay bike, and it's got that classic looped chain and seat stay design that Yeti became famous for back then, which of course was a trademark characteristic of Frank the Welder, or FTW. Now, the elevated chainstay design was something that happened in those days because as chainstays were getting shorter, one of the problems that we used to suffer from was called chain suck. Now this used to happen in a couple of different ways. So riding on a bit of rough terrain, basically the chain could get caught between the tyre and the chainstay and tangled up and pulled in. But more importantly, the worst option would be it happened the other side and stuck between the chain set and the chainstay, which could cause a huge gouge in your paintwork and sometimes worse. And quite often when you try to free it, the chain itself would break. So, and of course, it's only ever going to happen when you're in the middle of a trail in the middle of nowhere. So the whole elevated chainstay thing was designed to address that whilst being able to keep the chainstay short enough and also not have a bit of a mess down at the bottom bracket there, because you've got, in those days, 3 chain rings, of course, a narrower bottom bracket, and then trying to cram it in with the short chainstays. So it's a pretty wild design, all things considered, but it's just iconic of that time and era. But yeah, bullseye hubs on here, just absolutely dripping with bike bling. And I know the guy that owns this particular one, he's got quite a collection of Yetis actually, so I'm sure I'm going to drag some of those up in the future, but I don't want to go too hot just on Yeti for now. So next thing I'm going to move on to is the Bomber Z1. So when this came out in about 1995, at the time there was pretty much no other decent suspension fork. Everything had up to about 3-inch travel, and I think the most aggressive fork you could get as a member of the public would have been the RockShox Judy DH. And that was racing red, just like that new Lyric is, exact same looking fork. And it had 3 inches of travel, which at the time, I remember Mountain Biking UK running a review of it, saying this thing is bonkers, you can ride straight to curbs on it, which is laughable by today's standards because you can do that on a cross-country bike. And then a Bomber Z1 came out, which dwarfed it. It was absolutely massive, and it's a coil sprung fork, coils in both legs, open oil bath damping system in there, so the fork is lubricated the entire time. In fact, look on screen now is a shot of Rob Warner's bike from the 1996 World Championships at Cannes, and he's got the set of the very original Z1s on there, and his have got steel stanchions on there. So his were heavier and stronger than the ones that became the public ones with the aluminium stanchions after, like this one that you're looking at. And you might also notice something strange about this, it's got dual disc brakes on it. Now, this was the only fork in the era, really, as far as I'm concerned, that had dual disc tabs on it. And it always left me wondering, why has it got 2 sets on? And Cullimore Engineering, basically a firm, made this dual disc brake setup, and their entire own system. So it's got their own lever there with the pot cylinder on the top there. It's got this cable splitter or hose splitter that mounts onto the fork brace. And you've got 2 calipers down the bottom there. And the actual caliper design is quite cool because they're a 3-part system, and the middle part is actually the mount to the fork. I mean, can you imagine when these things were working, the stopping power that they would have given you? Absolutely bonkers. I mean, of course, we don't need that stuff now because technology has jumped on and clearly no one's using dual discs. And the last one I just want to talk to you about today is this. This is the Pace DPD, and that stands for the Duncan's Purple Descender. Now, Duncan McDonald was one half of Pace back then. The other, of course, who's still running, is Adrian Carter. Now, this particular bike won the WD-40 Show and Shine, and I mean, I can see why. This thing is actually a bit of a look at the future, and I don't think anyone realised it. Even now, looking back at it, look at how advanced this thing, the whole layout of this shares a lot in similarity with many modern downhill bikes. Now, it's a single pivot bike, but look at the geometry. This thing is really, really long. It's got a headstock system like you'd see on motocross bikes back in there with a stem mounted directly to the bars. Of course, it's not got a lot of fork travel on there, but look at the disc brakes. 230mm Pro Stop disc calipers and rotors on there. Now, the rotors themselves were floating, and then the calipers were hydraulic, and they're two-piston design, but they were cable operated. So this thing inside just mind-blowing as far as the tech it had on it for the era. But just looking at every angle of this bike, absolutely stunning bit of kit. Really, really nice to see. But enough of me droning on. Please continue to send your retro bikes, your retro parts, your retro spots. Send them in. We love seeing them. We love telling you guys about stuff. So anything you've seen you want to know more about, let me know. Maybe we can do a special on some retro stuff. See you soon. All right, so now is all about top mods. This is the modifications that you guys do to your bikes. That could be some new handlebar grips, some new tyres, setting up tubeless, whatever it is, no matter how big or how small. If you're proud of what your modification is, send it in. We want to see it and we want to share that love. So send them in. The email address is on the screen. Use the hashtag #TopMods so we can find you, because we're getting a lot of emails these days. So really good to easily pick you out and put you on next week's show. So first up is from Paul Worrell. This is my Cannondale Rush, as was and as is. It's a few years old now, 2008, but I love this bike. So I thought I'd give it a complete repaint and a rebuild. I sprayed it in candy green with a marble effect. I'm a spray painter by trade, so it's easy for me. I drilled the frame to accept a dropper post. Oh, that's a nice hack, liking that. And it's had new headset, stem bars, grips, except basically everything. Hope you like it. Right, let's have a look. Okay, so that looks like the original build there. Looking pretty trick already, actually, with a lot of Hope Orange stuff on there. Looking nice. All right, so, okay, here we go. We started, so the bike is in pieces on your workbench. Back end is off, the paint is already half off. I do like those frames, actually. There's real clean, nice simplicity to them. Oh man, that looks rude with nothing on it at all. Completely naked. I love it, you strip the forks right down too. Liking where this is going. Oh, the base coat even looks pretty cool. It's like a Battleship Grey. Nice. Oh man, that is a really, really good looking paint job. Genuinely impressed with that. I think that looks really cool. And often when people say they're, I'm going to paint my bike up, so good luck with that. Trying to make it look better than the original, but I think you've actually made that look substantially better than the original. Good work, Paul. Nice one. Thanks for sending that in. And last one up this week is from Alex Nicolau. Doddy and GMBN Tech Crew. There are two sweet little mods I've done to protect my Cube Reaction carbon frame and finish. First up, I wrapped an old inner tube around the chainstay to combat chain slap. Always a good one, and good to recycle those tubes. And some Velcro wire wrap strip work to treat to protect against chain rub. Tidied the cockpit up and make sure I'm never left without a spare quick link. Hope you like them. Yeah, I'm a big fan of putting a quick link on the bars there. Hey, I like that, what you've done with the Velcro there. That's a good idea. Well, I bet it does attract a bit of mud. I guess you can be cleaned easy enough. That's no problem. But yeah, having a quick link on the bar, always useful, because you can just forget about it and then it will come in handy at some point. Yeah, trick. Nice work. Always good to sort of tidy up that snake's wedding going on up the front of the bars. My particular bike's got so many cables, sometimes I don't know what to do myself, but yours looks a lot cleaner than mine. So very nice, Alex. Thank you for sending that one in. Keep those mods coming in, guys. See you next week. Hi guys, okay, so finally we are back doing bike build, and I'm fully aware that it's been some time and it's not progressed at the speed that I hoped it would, and I'm sure that you feel the same about that. But let me just set things a bit straight to where we are. So back to the beginning. This is the frame that you all helpfully helped me pick out. So this is a Santa Cruz Nomad. Of course, it's a VPP enduro frame. A bit of a weapon, to be fair. This is the colourway we've got, the ink colour with the gold graphic. I really like that because it's quite subtle. I like the sandy colour one, which is quite aggro and quite common actually. I think this is the slightly classier looking frame. Now, my intention at the start of this build was to try and keep this to a budget, and now I couldn't set a budget for myself until I'd had that frame to actually accordingly do that. Now, given that these frames are about 1,800 UK sterling pounds, my aim was to try and keep it to around 3.5 grand, which is what the base model of this retails for. But if you've ever actually priced up a bike, you might also be aware that it's actually incredibly hard to do that, because when bike manufacturers spec their bikes that you buy complete, they're subject to OEM stuff, so it's original equipment manufacturing. So the SRAM drivetrain, for example, that you might get on a bike like this isn't the same one that you will buy in the shops. It will look the same and it will operate the same, but it's manufactured specifically by SRAM to be spec'd by a bike company, and they're sold in huge quantities to those bike companies at a certain rate. So this is why when you buy a bike, you can sometimes get incredible deals with really high-end kit on there. But nonetheless, I wanted to build a bike that was a bit more exciting and just had a few alternative parts on there. Like, don't get me wrong, like Fox suspension is amazing, so is DVO, RockShox, there's so many good brands out there. But I just wanted to explore a few things that aren't so common and also make a few decisions to try and keep costing down, whether that's on the physicality of the actual parts or on some parts that I think might need less maintenance and will cost you more in the long term. So I'm just going to take you through a few of the things I have so far and let you know the plan for the next few shows. So today we're just going to look through what I've got so far and tell you a bit about what's coming next. And then next show, I'm actually going to start building this bike and talking to you about a few specifics on there that you need to pay attention to when building bikes yourself. In particular, we can look at when I set the brakes up and how you do your brake lines and get all the cable routing as clean and neat as possible. We're also going to look at frame protection because I have an Invisi frame kit coming, which is essentially clear heli tape, but is custom cut for this particular bike. So it will ensure that the paintwork stays as good as this for the entire time that the bike is ridden. And then of course, I'm going to look at some setup stuff, and we're going to be taking the bike, once it's complete, over to a local suspension tuner. Of course, there's many suspension tuners and they're all very good. Of course, there are going to be lots near to you. The nearest one to us is TF Tune Shock, so we're going to be visiting them and we're going to have a look and see what custom setup stuff they can do with this RockShox Super Deluxe shock and the X-Fusion fork, which we have had custom built for us because there's none of this brand new black edition in the UK at present. This is the newer fork on here. And also in speccing this fork, so this is the first point to talk about. So we've got the Hope headset, which is slotting straight into the frame, keeping things nice and neat. Hope stuff is generally fit and forget. It works, it stays working that way, and of course it blends in seamlessly with that frame. Now the fork itself, it's a pretty chunky affair and it's very well made, and also from what TF Tune tell me, it's one of the forks that they can work with really well to achieve quite a good result with their custom tuning. So that's something we're going to look at when we go over there in the next couple of shows. Now also something a little bit different about this fork is it's got a 20mm axle on the front here rather than a 15, so it's something I had to factor in with the wheel set for the bike. Now the wheel set for the bike, I've gone for DT Swiss. It's easy to set up tubeless. They're nice and light. They use traditional spokes on here. Now, whilst I am a fan of Mavic and a whole bunch of other brands that use alternative methods, the thing I really like about a simple spoked wheel is you can replace the spokes easily wherever you are. So purely from a maintenance and longevity point of view, I wanted to have some spoked wheels because, like I say you're riding in the Alps, you bust a few spokes. Perhaps with Mavic and some of the other ones, you might find it a little trickier unless you get a really good bike shop to get what you need. Whereas any bike shop is going to carry a length of spokes, and at worst case, you can buy longer spokes, they'll be able to cut them down for you and re-tap the threads on the end. So, nice simple wheel set, boosts on the rear, 20mm on the front here, 25mm rims. Granted, they're not huge like a lot of the rims are these days, but given the style of tyres that I intend on putting on this, they're going to be perfect for this build. Next up are the cranks. Now, cranks are something I have a bit of a concern with on a lot of bikes. So it's possible to get very lightweight cranks, be they aluminium or carbon fibre. Now, for me, I really like a stiff crank, and if I can pick any sort of style crank, it has to be as stiff as possible. That's just, I'm not the lightest rider, quite heavy on the bike, and I like to have a direct connection to that, and having a stiff crank is a really good place to have this set up. So I've gone for the DMR Axe cranks. Now, these cranks, although it's not a downhill specific crank, they're strong enough for downhill use, and they're being used by the team Scott Velo Solutions. So that's Brendan Fairclough and co. It's a really simple crank, it's excellently made, and it looks like it's going to last a very long time. Now this particular one, it comes with a 34 tooth ring on here with a spider, so that wasn't going to be compatible as it is with the Boost frame. So I've got myself a direct mount Praxis chainring. Now, Praxis, you might wonder who they are, but Praxis actually make chainrings for a lot of bike brands, and in fact, they make OEM cranks for e-bikes, for virtually all the e-bikes out there. They're actually Praxis cranks on there, badged up as Cannondale or whatever brands are out there. Now this particular ring, although it's not a narrow wide design, it uses the wave teeth profile. So the narrow wide design is excellent and we know it works, but also there's the wave design. So the wave design, instead of having a narrow and a wide tooth, the teeth are actually offset to either side, so they sit up against the inner links of the chain to achieve the same result in a slightly different way. Now I'm curious to see if these are slightly lower in friction as well, so there is another reason I wanted to try and experiment with this. So I'm going to get this on the crank and then get the crank direct onto the bike and then we're good to go. So this is the 34, and for the rear, although sadly it's not here yet, I did chase this yesterday, the E13 cassette I'm going on the back. I'm a really big fan of it. I love the fact you can replace both sets of teeth individually on there. You've got the steel and you've got the steel lower ones and you've got the aluminium upper ones, which you're likely to wear more. So I think it's a really good system and that's what we're sticking to on here. Transmission wise, I'm waiting for the box components, rear derailleur and shifter. Like again, that should be here any day, but that's not going to slow anything down at this stage. So seat posts wise, initially there was a whole bunch on my radar, including the bike yoke post, which I still really like, but I'm actually really quite impressed with the USC Ultimate post. So this post is called the Helix, and on the inside it uses a Helix coil system. So I'm going to pull this apart and show you some photos on our social media what this looks like on the inside. I haven't got time to do that right this minute. But it uses, because it uses a Helix coil on the inside, it's just a completely mechanical post. It has an air system in here for literally returning the post. So you can adjust the amount of air to adjust your rebound control effectively. Really, really simple, and my aim for this is the fact that you're not really going to need to do much with this. Something else about the USC Post I like, even though I've not ridden it yet, is the fact that the key system on the USC Post, I have no doubt it's going to be one of the best in the business. And the reason for that is they were making suspension seat posts all the way back to the early 90s, and they've completely refined their system. I noticed that on their suspension posts there's no knocking like you get on a lot of dropper posts, so I have high hopes for this as being a very reliable seat post for the build. And of course, being cable operated, it does mean if you're going to crash and stuff that you're not going to pull out any hydraulics. The lever itself is really nice. It's really similar to the Crank Brothers post that we use. It's got a ball socket on here. And the Crank Brothers one has a little skateboard grip tape sticker that you stick over the end, but the USC one has actually got machining on the end here, which gives you enough traction whether you've got sweaty hands or you get mud on your gloves. It's going to give you exactly what you need. And I love, just like the Crank one, you can place it and position it exactly where you want on the bars. So that's a win-win for me. Just as a little colour coordination thing, I've got one of these fabric sandals. This is a line and it's got a custom gold graphic on here. I believe that this one was supposed to be going to Mark Scott, who actually races for Santa Cruz, but I managed to poach this one. So sorry Mark if this is your saddle, but tough because it's going on this bike and it's going to look rad because it kind of matches too. And also while we were there, I'm not sure if I'm going to run these yet or not, but I really like the feel of them. So the new Fabric 50-1 grips, they're a mushroom profile. They're really nice, but I mean, I'm a bit of a sucker for the Ergon grips that we run, so I'm still in two minds about what to run, but these do feel really good. So perhaps it's the easy solution is to get these on and they're done. So not even unwrapped these yet. So we've got race face effect, bar and stems, the 780mm bar with 20mm rise. Now this isn't the premium range that do carb and other stuff from Race Face. This is their base range that fits everything and does the job well. So I'm not going to unbox these yet, I don't want to scratch them, but we'll deal with this when we cut the steerer tube down next episode. And the final thing I want to talk about, actually I lied, not the final thing, I've just remembered. Milkit Valves. I always reference Milkit Valves in tubeless related videos, so naturally, I'm going to put the Milkit valves on here. They've got the syringe system for putting the sealant straight in through the valve. When you take the valve core out, because it's got a sealed end on them, you're not going to lose any air. So that is just really important to me. I really like them. I think they're really well designed. And I'm still surprised that no one else is doing something similar. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. There might be some other excellent valves out there, but Milkit seem to have that right. So they're going on the bike. Finally, as discussed by a lot of you in the comments, were TRP brakes. So I've got a set of these really, really nice Quadium TRP brakes. As you can see, they're in pieces, ready to trim down and bleed and put onto the bike. So that's going to be taken care of. I love the fact that they're mineral oil. I love the fact that they come with everything you need and uncut hoses, so they can be the perfect length. So something else I want to look into is how to get that all set up at the front, because there's a fine line between having too much cable and them rattling around and not having enough that you risk damaging them in a crash. So it's just a nice little extra you want to do when you look at cockpit, so we'll be looking at that one too. But that for the moment is it. Now as far as voting for products goes, my intention was only to vote for the frame and then to just have an open discussion. And we have been paying a lot of attention. Our social team have been looking through all of the comments as well as myself and seeing what people actually look at and what people have been talking about. And we've really tried to sort of have a bit of a balance of alternative products on there, but this is more about what's coming next now. So I'm just gonna fast track it. Next episode of the show, we're gonna be putting the bike together. Then we're gonna be taking it to TF Tunes. And then there's a couple of really cool things coming up that I think you're definitely gonna wanna tune in for. And hopefully you'll find a bit unexpected too. So there we go, there is another show in the bag for you. And hopefully, I'll at least have sort of pleased some of you about the bike build, because I'm actually thrilled that the stuff's finally here to sort of get this thing moving and get in the direction we want to go. For a couple more great videos, click down here if you want to see 5 common questions answered. So that's a lot of the questions that we get a lot of the time coming through on Ask GMBN Tech. Decided to make a video just to get those answered, so it's a good reference point for people. And then up here, you might be able to win one of 5 POC helmets. So click up here for that, because everyone likes a free helmet, especially when it's a high-end one like that. As always, click on that round globe to subscribe to GMBN Tech. We love you guys being on board, but we want to share the love, get it out there a bit more. And as always, if you like GMBN Tech, give us a thumbs up.